Hello, Rohit.
Hey Bikesh, hey Niraj.
How are you, man?
I'm good, how are you?
We're all good. It's been long, man. It's been long.
I think after our trip we have been
Yeah, I think it
talk,
was the US trip
yeah.
that that's when we were together. We talked to each other, I guess, with three of us together.
Yeah, three of us,
That
yeah.
was 2019
Yeah.
or 20.
Yeah.
2019, man. February of
Yeah,
2019.
2019.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like 2 years ago.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. How's everything else, Rohit? What's happening?
It's just the same. Just I don't know what's going on over here with the lockdown, but how are things in Sydney? Is it doing
We
great?
are having a lockdown here. Like, I think it's added for like one more week.
Yeah, and the
So,
restriction are more. I mean, like the more cases are, we are getting more cases.
Oh
mhm.
yeah.
And I think today there is one death.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
there was one death from COVID. So I think
Okay, I didn't know that.
they are doing more restriction.
Pretty good. Fuck, man. Yeah, man. It's like I hope it doesn't happen like every year like this once a year. There comes like a wave and we just have to like deal with it every time. It's not like a festival kind of a thing. I hope it doesn't turn into like that, something like that, once a year thing.
Yeah, it's been
Alrighty
like
then.
that last
Yeah.
year. Mm.
First of all, thank you so much, Rohit, for like coming in short notice. We were just
Definitely.
like having problem getting any guests for our podcast, so I thought like we would just have a conversation about social innovation, and I just saw that you would be another person who could like help us get more insights into social innovation, since we have been like social change champs for our university. So let's start with like social work, I guess. Like, what does social work mean to us? Let's start with that. So
Am
maybe
I
start
going
with,
first?
yeah, let's go with Rohit.
Uh, for me, I think even doing whatever kind of job that you do
Mm-hmm.
or anything that you do it in a very ethical and considerable manner with everyone else around you. For
Mm-hmm.
me, that's social work. It doesn't have to be something out of like you do out of your life.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that the work that you do it in a really good way, and consider you take everyone else into consideration, including the environment and the people. So
Mm-hmm.
for me, that's what it is.
I mean, that's something that I do, but is that what social work means?
Yeah, I
Or
mean, people have different meanings. So
mm-hmm.
I would also consider that me going out of my way and not taking any compensation and volunteering and all those things.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like the other way is more effective if everyone does it. If you know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean. Like if
Mm-hmm.
everyone does it in a considerate manner,
Mm-hmm.
then you wouldn't need like social work and it just helps everyone and everything. So yeah.
Okay.
Like for example, if you're starting a company and then you're employing 10 people and then you run the company in a very ethical manner and you
Mm-hmm.
also hire accordingly, ensuring that there is no favoritism or anything,
Mm-hmm.
then you're literally doing social work because you are doing good for the economy and
Mm-hmm.
also you're like employing 10 people. So yeah.
That's a good way to look at it, man. I
Yeah, yeah.
had I mean I do believe in like having ethical system in company and everything, but I never thought about it like that, like the way you explained it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I may be wrong,
no,
but
no,
No,
I
no, that's a good way to think about it.
that's a good way to think. Even I like
Go on.
the way Rohit. I'm like the concept, the theory you have. Even I think
Mm-hmm.
social work should be like we have to go and do some something like there's just some social problem and you have to solve that social problem. It can be in any way, like Rohit said, doing our own job, but in an ethical
Mm-hmm.
way. And I think for me, social work is something like you do. Uh, Without expecting someone or something, without having any kind of
Mm-hmm.
expecting, you just do by your heart, and you just do for the society, and there's
Mm-hmm.
no any expectation for that. For me, so
Mm-hmm. Okay. For me, like as you said, I got like two different perspectives right here. But for me, as I have seen social work, whenever someone says social work, what comes into my mind would be some kind of work, some kind of anything that would actually help some issues that is happening or that is going on in society, and we're doing something to work on that issue, or we're trying to somehow, I wouldn't say eradicate because it's hard to eradicate. We'll get into that thing later on, but more of like solve it somehow or make it better, like whatever social issues we're happening in the society that's affecting like all of us, some kind of work to try and solve those issues. I think that's what social work would ring in my head as.
Yeah. But I think
Mm-hmm.
like if like Rohit said, if every persons are ethical, then I think there will be no like
That's the
such,
kind of social work to do, man. I
there is
mean,
no kind of
it's
like
a yeah, it's a good way to say that if you want to like really bring in the change, like start from yourself.
yeah,
That's a great point to add into that. Like, if you really want to do some social work, look into what you are doing and try to do it ethically. Try to make sure that you are not doing any injustice to someone else. I think that's a great way to start social work from yourself, whatever
yeah,
you're doing.
Yeah, and also like you mentioned, I think I really like the fact that like you're solving problems
Mm-hmm.
in a good way. So uh, like the end goal should be that that problem should not be there.
Mm-hmm.
So every social work will have like an endpoint, if you know what I mean, like, and then you move on. So that could be not just issues that you think
Mm-hmm.
is just for helping people or anything, you know what I mean, like
Mm-hmm.
for example, you're using civil engineering skills, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what kind of issues that you can solve, not just through out of your way, but within your work or any
Mm-hmm.
field that you mean. So
Yeah, man, that's a great way to look at it. Like, whatever, even with the engineering, I haven't figured it out exactly yet, or I haven't been doing it, but that's a great way to think about it, in a sense that if even if I'm like working for a company, like whichever company I'm going in, we could always look into like, are the company ethical as a whole? How are they sourcing their resources? What are they doing? How is it affecting? Like, if we start to think and choose jobs based on that, or make it like a priority to look that if I'm going to be employed by an employer, they are at least socially responsible, that would be a great place to like start a social work.
yeah, I think probably the
Yeah.
most low-hanging fruit, like we used to say back then.
Yeah, exactly. Not only low hanging, it's a great place to start, and then we can always go on and on. All right. So we talking about social work, we have different perspective. So based on that and everything, like, why are you interested in doing a social work? Why are you interested? Why do you care about it? Like, basically, why do you do social work?
Um, Probably a selfish reason, but I think like if everything works well, it just end of the day it works well for me too.
Mm-hmm.
So if there is a problem and I solve it, or someone else is solving it, at the end of the day, it affects you also,
Mm-hmm.
even if it doesn't directly affect you in the bigger picture. And it just makes the world a better place to live. I know it's a
Mm-hmm.
cliche, but yeah, I think that's the significance of social work for me.
Okay. Is it only me who's seeing Rohit hanged, or is it with you too, Niraj?
yeah.
Yeah, I
Because
think.
Is it with me as well? Yeah.
okay, so you're
Yeah.
freezing sometimes, and sometimes you're just going dark. Come on, man, you're an IT person. Fix it.
Probably after 7. I think after 7, there will be some issue with the network. I feel like that every time.
Wait,
Really?
give me a second.
Yeah,
I'll just try
every
to.
time
I can't do anything about the
I use
internet, but
Zoom
I'll
meeting
just try
after
to do
7.
something
There's
about
always a
the.
problem like this one.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know
Because
that.
I think this is the I'm like this is the time like most of the people use internet. I think.
Oh, okay,
Netflix.
so is it like overload of
Yeah,
internet?
maybe like that.
Everyone's on
Okay,
Netflix.
okay, all right. So what about you, Neeraj? I've seen you like doing a lot of social voluntary work even back in Nepal, for Teach for Nepal. That's the main thing that I know about you, because you also promoted it here in Australia to help them to collect some donations to give them back. So why do you do that?
Uh, it's really hard to say why I do that. I'm like,
Maybe that's the wrong question, man. Maybe I'm asking the wrong question. Instead of
no,
like, what attracts you to do that? Or basically, that's the reason, right? We
yeah.
do things for some particular reason. So why do we do it? Like, how? Why do you? Okay, just take example of Teach for Nepal. Like, instead of
Yeah.
saying social work, what what was your thinking process, or what did you feel like, or what made you think that maybe I should go out and work for Teach for Nepal, or maybe I should go out and collect donations for Teach for Nepal?
Uh, I think like one thing that hit me is like educations, because education is important for all of us, and I think education is should be the basic need. It should be like the basic need of every human being. So, but when as you know that most of the children in rural areas in our country, they are not getting a good education. There are schools, there are government schools, but you know the conditions. So the kind of education, the quality of education that we get in the private schools in the city area, and we are here right now, we are the product of that. And but there are the children's. I was working as a telecom engineer in far western region, and far western is one of the most backward region in our country. So I have been there, and
I've been there too.
yeah, I have been to all the hills. I've climbed lots of hills, and I have seen there lots of children over there in the schools. The condition of schools and the condition of children and the quality of education they are getting, and that really hit me. I'm like, if I was born in that place, then probably I would be like that. I would be getting the same kind of educations like them. But thank God my parents brought me in the city area. They value the education, so they put me in the private schools, and that's how I got all this knowledge, and that's how I think that's the reason I'm progressing in my life. And I thought this opportunity should I think every child should get these opportunities. And I think Tips for Nepal is doing one of this providing quality educations to all of children in Nepal, and their goals, their visions. I really like that, and what I really want to do by myself, they are doing. So I feel like why not help them? So even I'm in Australia, let's help them by collecting some donations from here. So that's the reasons I collected some donations and gave to Tips for Nepal. So I think that's the story of Tips for Nepal.
Okay, that's nice to know. Like, as you said, I've been to like far western sides of the villages, and the school system, whatever is there, like education is something like a basic need, and I think education is something that we need for the development of any country. Like I didn't know about this. I recently actually come to know about this, like how our country was, what's the particular word for that? Like, people weren't allowed to read or study or have an education for like 200 years of time during the Rana regime. Do you know about that?
Oh yeah, we used to read in schools.
Yeah. So basically, we are kind of 200 years backwards because of that, because we didn't have education for the 200 years. So I think education is a very important part for any country in order to understand each other, in order to communicate each other, in order to understand what we're doing, in order to understand who we are ourselves. Like, education helps to broaden our perspective, and it's a great thing that you did for Teach for Nepal. Shout out to Teach for Nepal for whatever they're doing. I had another friend of mine who actually worked in a local village of Lalitpur. I forgot the name. Bukhel, I think that was the place name. And there he worked as a teacher for 2 years. And his experiences are good, actually. And the way they run things, like they have their self-reflection kind of thing that goes on, and they have projects, they work on that as a team. So I really love whatever they're doing. So shout out to Teach for Nepal for that.
Yeah, and they are doing it in a different and like in an innovative ways, not like the way the government schools are doing. They are doing it different, innovative way. And also I think we are seeing a lot of changes now.
That's nice to know, man. That's nice to know. All right. So saying that, moving into social innovation. So our main topic for today is social innovation. I just wanted to build up a background around what social innovation is. So I just wanted to talk about like what social work is or why we do it. In my part, why I do it is because somehow it makes me feel happy. It somehow brings peace to me, and I think it is in my duty to do things that I can. Like as I've said before, I'm not someone who would go out of my way and help people, but I would like to help people with whatever I can. And it's because I can. Basically, there are people who can't and I can, so I think I'm somehow obliged to do something for them. Also, it's a society, it's a community we live in, and we need to live together. We need that harmony. So somehow social issues or social problems are something that is blocking us from having that. So I think that is one of the reasons why I like to get into social issues, and somehow it just makes me a better human being. That's why I do it, I think. And yeah, I think that's why I do it. That's why I love to do it, although I haven't been able to do it now, but there's always a part of me who likes to do it and who would be doing things in the future.
Yeah, I want to
Now,
add something like there was in episode one there was Pratiksha, wasn't it? And we had a conversation about social work, and I really like the way she said, like, everybody do. I'm like, there are a lot of people doing social works in our country. Yeah? There are a lot of social works. I mean, like, happening in our community. But what she said is like she said something that I really like, and she said something like, if you want to solve any problems, then start from you or from your family, because people want to solve the problems of the community, but inside their family or inside them, there's still a problem. They don't want to solve what's going inside them or what's going in their family. They just want to go outside and just solve the problem, and they just want to be in a highlight. I'm like, oh, I did it this one or something like this one, but inside their family there's chaos. So she said, whatever, start from your family and start from within. And after you have I'm like, after you are rid of all the problem from you, after there's no chaos in your family, and then you start going forward. So she said, like, start from within rather than going outside. So I really like that, because yeah, we can see a lot of problem happening, but sometimes we don't see what's going inside us, what's going inside our family. So I think that should be also what we should take care of.
I agree to that, man. I agree to that. Like, even the examples that I gave in our podcast, like start from cleaning your room. That comes from Jordan Peterson, and that is somehow the example of saying the thing, whatever you say, that start from within, start from yourself. Instead of going out and trying to solve the problems of the world, maybe you should start by fixing yourself. And that's what I also mean by when I say I would do only what I can, because if I have things to fix within myself, I won't be able to go out and help others in a way I could, you know. So it's always good to start from within, start from yourself. As Rohit said, like, start from what you are doing, look into what work you are doing, like, do things ethically instead of going out and working from someone else and only looking at money. Maybe look into make ethical things, doing ethical things a priority. That would be a great, if everyone, like Rohit said, as like if everyone did everything ethical, I think there would be a lot of peace around the world.
Yeah.
Right. All right. So getting into the topic of social innovation. So let's just start with Rohit again, maybe. So what is social innovation? Like, for someone, like for us, we know what social innovation, we have been involved and everything. But if I'm someone who is like, who doesn't know social innovation, what is a social innovation basically?
So first, I think I would probably everyone knows this, but what innovation is? It's kind of like a new idea which you can use to solve a problem. And then when you use those ideas, create new ideas to solve existing problems in the community, to solve social issues in a very sustainable and sustainable, not only even in an economical sense where it rolls off. I think that's social innovation. One of my favorite examples that I would give would be like, it's very simple, but we never think.
Mm-hmm.
Like the internet,
Mm-hmm.
where it was not discovered for this purpose, but
Mm-hmm.
because of it, even a person like me is capable of, like, I don't have to go to university to sometimes pay a lot of money to learn a lot of things
Mm-hmm.
if I want to switch careers, or if I want to give someone, like for example in India back home, if I want to teach some rural kids, the only thing I need to do is like make sure they have an internet connection and they can learn and become what they want. So it's like a great traveler. So I think that's a good example of what social innovation is. So I think it's just a very new idea to solve issues.
Mm-hmm. All right. What about you, Neeraj? What comes into your mind when we talk about social innovation?
I think social innovation is, I think, doing something in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I think we have been doing something. I mean, yeah, I think for social innovation is has something like, it's for me, like, it's not like something totally new.
Mm-hmm.
It's something, doing something in a different way. So I think social innovation is something like that. So for me, the example is like in Nepal, the Khali Sisi. There is something called Khali Sisi.
Mm-hmm.
So before, there was, look, people were coming and collecting bottles from home, like from every homes. But now there's a Khali Sisi. So now there's an app.
This is an organization
Yeah,
actually out there.
it's a social enterprise organizations,
Mm-hmm.
and now there's an app. So if you have some bottles, you can just pick
Any kind of rubbish.
yeah, any kind of rubbish. You can just go to the apps, just pick a date, and just pick a date, write your address, and the people comes and just they pick everything from you, and they also calculate how much money you get, or whatever there is something like that. So I think that it's social innovation, something doing differently. I think that's, for me, is something like that.
Okay. My perspective on social innovation is, like as Rohit said, first of all, the word innovation. Innovation doesn't have to be a new invention. There is a difference between invention and innovation, right? So invention is like completely new. Innovation could be something like you tweak a little bit of process, or you tweak a little bit of how systems work, and you try to make it more efficient to give the same kind of output, which here is solving a social issue, right? So that's what social innovation is. Like within your example, like of the Kali CC thing, right? That's a great innovation out there. Same kind of innovation, what they have done here is that instead of just wasting the recycled products, what they have done here in Australia to make us recycle the products is they have separated the bins. You whatever things are recyclable, you can put it in the yellow bins so they could be recycled, which means that we are producing less waste somehow. Although I don't know how efficient is it, because from what I've heard, I don't think they separate the red bins and yellow bins properly and recycle them properly. But that's a good innovation, to solve the issue of waste that was happening. Also, the system which we have here, where we can go to a center there and just return the bottles and get 10 cents for each cent. That's like giving incentives for doing good work. That's social innovation. So any kind of process, any kind of thing, any kind of something out of the box, it doesn't have to be even out of the box, even within the system, if we can do something to make the output of our social work more effective, to make it more sustainable, I think that's social innovation for me. So as I said, it doesn't have to be like a big invention or a big thing. It could be simply like separating the waste. It was a problem then. Social innovation changes. Like something could be a social innovation now, but as we go on, it becomes like a habit, or it isn't innovation anymore. But every time new things keep on coming, and that's what social innovation is, basically trying to solve the social issues more efficiently, more sustainably. Another example, one of the best examples that I could give for anyone for social innovation is social enterprise, right? So all of us know about social. So what a social enterprise is, it's basically, it is a business. Like it could be anything, like a photography business or a restaurant or anything, like a normal business, whatever, however a normal business runs, that's how they run social enterprise. But whatever the profits the business is making, after cutting all the costs, like expenses for whatever resources you need, expenses for your staff, your salary and everything, after all of that, whatever the profit the organization gets, all of that goes to solve a social issue, either for homelessness or for refugees or anything. But the basic concept is that you are running a business to earn the money so that you could solve the issue instead of being dependent on donations from others. What social enterprise does is generate its own money so that it could solve social issues. So that's a great example of social innovation or social enterprise.
Yeah, I think
Um,
there's one more Oz Harvest or something like in Sydney. Do you know this
mhm.
one? Yeah, I
Oz
like.
Harvest, yep.
Yeah, I like that one as well. Like they go to the supermarket, they go to all the Woolies, and they collect all the
Yeah.
about to that like
So whatever the food that is
about
going that would generally have gone to waste, they
waste. Yeah,
collect that.
they collect that and they make a different product. I'm like they make product which can be eatable, and that's a really nice concept. I'm like I really like that.
As far as I'm not exactly sure, but with those kind of organizations, there are a few others who what they do is basically they go out and collect the food which would have been gone to waste in supermarkets because somehow people have a habit of picking only the food or fruits that looks good.
Good,
You know,
yeah.
so we have this thing called an odd bunch of lemons, which is much cheaper because it doesn't look so good naturally, like while looking at it. But the taste, and maybe the taste is different. I'm not exactly sure, but they collect all those kinds of food. I think we'll have to collect in again because this meeting is going to end. Let's just come back to the same link, okay?
No, I think they removed the 40 minute limit. I can see that one.
Yeah, you sure?
Yeah, we have removed the 40 time limit on your group meeting.
I just
Okay,
got
that's
a
nice.
message
That's nice.
saying that it's been upgraded to unlimited minutes.
Sometime happen.
Okay, so yeah, basically, as I was saying, so that's what they do. They collect those kind of foods, and there's another social enterprise. They are basically kitchens, like restaurants, which are working for the similar kind of purpose. So instead of buying food from the market, they get those kind of food from Oz Harvest or organizations like that, and they run like a normal restaurant.
Yeah, I think
All the profit is going
I
to someone
forgot the
else.
name of that restaurant. I have been to that restaurant.
Lentils as anything.
Oh, yeah, lentil as anything. Yeah, I went.
That's just an example of that.
Yeah, I went there as well in Newtown and I the food was very nice. I really like the food and yeah, and as you said the concept is very nice as well. Yeah, they collect all the food that should have been in bean and they make, but the tastes were very good.
This is good, man. Like most of the people who are working there are volunteers.
Yeah.
So as I said, it's a non-profit organization, it's a social enterprise. So whatever profits are coming from there, it's going for a particular social issue, right? And most of them, these kind of organizations, they have like volunteers. It's a great culture out here in Australia where actually I had a different concept for volunteering back in Nepal. When I heard word volunteer back in Nepal, that what I meant was there's like a kind of a charity happening or a function happening, and I'm going out and helping them for that one particular day.
Mhm.
But after coming here and working as a social innovation ambassador for the university and everything, or even like seeing around, what I've noticed is that volunteering doesn't only have to be something that you go for like a single day or like for like it's broader than what I thought. So volunteering could be basically you could go and work in a restaurant as a kitchen hand or a chef in a social enterprise. That's volunteering in a social work. Not only that, you could also do it with whatever skills you have. Like you're a photographer, you can go and do the photography for a social enterprise or have a social enterprise based on that. You could be a academic person, like you could be a teacher or of a particular subject, and you could actually help social enterprise or business by volunteering your time. The volunteering is mostly for time what you give with the skills you have, so it doesn't have to be like you just go out and do something like help something for a particular event only. It could be done on a regular basis, and it could be done in any field. So that's a great thing I have found here.
I think it's also important that volunteering is really important, but I
Mm.
feel like it's also like very different from social innovation. That's just what I think it
Yeah,
is,
yeah, that's
because I think
completely different thing. Yeah.
in social innovation you actually solve the issue like at least for a longer period of time,
Mm-mm.
because sometimes volunteering is just you change the issue for the moment, but the problem still exists.
Yeah, of
But
course, of course,
like
of
for
course.
example, social enterprise is the best example. Like you don't need people donating money. Donations are good,
Mm.
but there needs to be a way where it can work without it also. And so I think it's one of the best examples that you had given. And also, I remember the big idea competition uh, where you have to pitch ideas, and I remember you were the finalist. And one of the criteria was that it has to be economically sustainable, where you shouldn't depend on donations. So I think not in all cases, like for example, wasting of food which doesn't look good is probably not, it's still an innovation, but it's not like where it doesn't involve any money. But otherwise, a lot of the examples, you have to solve the issues for like a foreseeable amount of future time.
One of the priorities of social innovation is that it is sustainable, like sustainable in terms of like everything, sustainable in terms of resources, economics, financials, and everything, because again, it doesn't have to be in everything, like I just said, but sustainability is one of the great things we need to have with social innovation. And actually, I went into a class there was an undergraduate class for social innovation. So I might get into that topic too, and would like to see into what you guys have and opinions about that. So the social issues that we have around is like, it's very complicated. It's not as easy as it seems. Like Rohit knows that, I know that, even you would know that, Niraj, because we've been to the conference. Social issues are somehow intertangled with a lot of factors, like it's not so straight ahead. And there are plenty of examples where we think that we are doing the right thing to solve these issues, but instead we are creating a different, bigger problem than that. And one of the examples that I have right now is how they tried to ban alcohol in US. I forgot the date for that. In 80s and 90s, they tried to like completely ban alcohol and make it illegal so that people wouldn't drink, and it would lessen the violence and everything. But the banning, when they banned it, it reduced whatever the crime was happening, whatever the problems from the alcohol was happening, it reduced for a time. But in the longer term, what happened was people started to deal alcohol illegally. So what happened was, neither the problem they were trying to solve was solved. Instead, there was another problem of black market and illegal marketing that came into account. So whenever we are looking into social issues, we always have to check into like different factors, like would it be sustainable or not, if we are actually generating another problem while we're trying to solve one problem. That's also a part of social innovation we have to have and look into. So what are your thoughts on like intertanglement of different issues? Do you guys have any examples or anything that comes into your mind when it comes to like a particular social issue? You can take any particular example or social issues as a whole. And when you think about it, do you think like examples or any solutions for any particular problem would be easier, or do you have any ideas around your head?
I think one of the things that I would like to repeat is that, like, even though we say that an idea can solve a problem, it's never that easy, right? It's like it's such a huge thing. And also I would like to touch on like human-centered design, where
That's a good point to talk about. Yep.
Amount of time understanding the problem and I try to understand the people facing the problem. And so this is probably a simplified example, but what I thought was that, like, sometimes when we are donating things, we might not actually think about the consequences. Like, for example, if you are donating food, um, this is not the case where a place which has been hit by a natural disaster, where it's a totally different story. But it's if you're sending food to a community thinking that it's an impoverished thing, one thing that will do is to decimate the food market over there. Like, so people who are running businesses over there, like for example, you're sending rice. If people are getting furious, they're not gonna buy it. So, like, we never think that how is it affecting their economy? Do they need food right now? Like, is it like an urgent matter? So something that you could do is, like, instead of thinking what we can give them, maybe if we think in a different way, that, like, what can be a sustainable long-term solution for that? Like, how can their economy be built up so that it doesn't depend on donation? Like, can we uh, like teach them anything? I forgot the name of the business, but there is this one
Mhm.
institution in Australia over here where um, they sell like crafts and other goods made from Nepal. Do you
Seven women.
remember? Yeah, so instead of like so I even forgot the person's name, but
Stephanie
she, instead of
something.
thinking that we need to collect money for them, she thought, okay, let's just teach them the skills. Maybe yeah, so, and suddenly that's a good idea. And like, from as far as I know, they're really happy, and they
Hmm.
don't. I mean, their self-esteem is up, and the community is built up. So I think that's one of my favorite examples for, as you
Yep.
said.
So the one you're talking about is called Seven Women, which is based in Nepal, and Stephanie Wollard. I think that's her name. I'm sorry if I'm saying the wrong name, but she's actually Australian from Melbourne, I think. And so what she saw was when she was in Nepal in Kathmandu, she saw like seven women in a tin hut who were actually making, I think, candles, and I think it was candles, some kind of handicrafts they were making. And what she saw was all of them were somehow disabled, or some people who had been exiled from their villages because of some things, like they had some kind of disability or something like that. So what she did was, instead of trying to give some money or try to give them for something, she tried to make them self-sustainable by teaching them how to do that and sell those products so that they could like get their own revenue coming and they could develop more. I think I don't know exact data or anything, but they have quite a big organization out there right now, not only who teach, but there are plenty of women who go there and learn, and they have their own business. They're helping like to have them their own business. That's a great example. Also, the example of what you said about giving them food was, there's a great movie called Poverty Inc., which
Mm.
basically tells you around what's happening with poverty. There are plenty of donations coming in every year from different countries, but why the hell is poverty? I don't know the exact data again, but why is it happening out there? So there's a great movie about that there, where they give examples like the one you said about the rice. I think it was in a freaking country. I forgot the name. Where what happened was an earthquake hit them, or I think it was happening before that. But US was basically giving them donation rice as donations. What was happening was companies in US were trying to get profits from that, and they were just sending out rice there, which what happened was, in the country people stopped growing rice, as a result of which it affected the farmers. The business of the farmers went, and farmers weren't able to survive up themselves. Similarly, there are lots of examples where people come off with shoes. I forgot the name for that shoe company who actually gave free shoes to the people in Africa. But what that did was, it took out the job of a cobbler. So whenever we are trying to go out and solve a social issue, we need to always look into that factor, that how what we should be only focusing on what good is it doing. We should be able to be skeptic and look into the factors like what negatives are we doing, and is negative sides actually taking over the positive sides, or can we somehow eliminate those negative sides. So we need to be always be careful about that when we're looking into social innovation, I mean social issues. And social innovation, when you study about social innovation, that is a part you learn. Like, it's not that easy. It's intertwined with a lot of things out there, and while we're trying to solve one problem, there is always a chance that we are creating a bigger problem. So we should always be able to look into that. Right. Also, I want to talk about like what we did in our university. Would you be open up to talk about it, right?
Yeah, sure. I think we were part of the Chain Champion team.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing colleagues. It was one of the
Yeah.
best.
I miss that, man.
Yeah, I that's something that I miss so much.
Mm-hmm.
So
Me too.
what we did was
Maybe start from the
we
beginning, like how you got into it, how you come to know about it, because when how long had you been in Australia when you got the job?
3 months.
3 months, like same like me. Yeah. So basically,
Yeah.
did you had idea about social innovation back then?
Uh, I had an idea, but within like 2 months into the job, I realized that whatever I knew was completely wrong.
I had no idea, like when I got in the job, I didn't know what social innovation was actually. I had no idea. I thought it was like some kind of, I had zero idea, basically. I had zero idea. I didn't know how did I got in, what Ashley saw in me, whatever she saw in me, and she got me in, but I had like zero idea about social innovation when I got in. So yeah, let's go on. What happened after that? How did you know about the job and how did you got in? Walk us through the process.
Obviously, like earlier when Neeraj mentioned that, I was always someone who thought everyone needs a level playing field. So I was generally interested in seeing that, like, how everyone can get an education, or because I always felt that I was really lucky that I didn't face much difficulty as the others. So I was always into these things. And then one day I saw the post and I thought, okay, this seems like a good opportunity. And maybe a very small but huge reason would be that getting a job at university in Australia 3 months as a student would probably
That was a
be
big
the
thing for us back then.
yeah, that's probably the main reason. But still, I think the reason that I got the job was probably they realized that like it was something that I've been trying to do for a while. And so once I joined, what we did was, like, there are a lot of people studying things at the university, right? So our main aim was to make sure that everyone has a bit of an understanding of what this is and how we can encourage others, like mainly our university students, to be part of this social innovation, use their skills, and also ensure that even if they need some kind of help or encouragement, it works both ways. It's not just one way. It also helps university students in a way that it gave them a confidence and a lot of opportunities to volunteer and network, which is like really important over here. So I think that's a very short explanation. We did a lot of things, maybe a bit of travel also, but yeah,
A
it's
lot of travel.
yeah. So I feel like as much as I was doing this, I learned and my whole perspective changed as a change.
Same for me. Same for me. As I said, I had like no idea what social innovation is. Somehow I was interested in social work. Somehow I like to help people, and I think that was one of the main reasons why I got selected. Plus, my intro video for the application that I made, it was like be as creative as possible, and I've always wanted to get into those kind of like creative field, creative arts field, and I guess that's how I got into it. I just said like it was a big deal for me, like being in Australia like 3-4 months, and I'm actually working for the university, man. Come on, I was working as a kitchen hand, I was working in the cleaning jobs and everything. I even hadn't got like a proper front of house job back then, and I was directly like promoted to university, working for university. It was a big deal for me back then, man. But yeah, I had no idea what social innovation is back then. But as I got involved into it, I just went into it. I enjoyed that time, like, and it not only if in sense of a job or having a proper job here in Australia, it so much helped me to explore everything out here, because what I have seen being in that university, working for that university, for that campus, is that for most international students, we are somehow stuck between going to uni, come back, go to work, and that's it. Uni and work is all we do. We don't even go to uni and see what uni has to offer, what are the things we could explore. We just go in, attend a class, and that's it. But universities have a lot to offer. Like, I'm not sure about different universities, but I think I can speak for CQ, Central Queensland University, because they had those things, and I was able to like grab those opportunities, especially because I was working for them. Because that completely opened up a way for me where I could go and talk to anyone, or I could discuss anything with anyone, because it gave me that confidence that okay, I work for the university somehow. And that completely changed my world. Like I have said this before too, like if I hadn't got that job there, I would have become like a completely different person, because I would still be stuck in the same old mentality which most international students have here, where it's all about like pay the fees, the fees are too expensive, so you need to work, get the fees somehow. I can speak for a lot of people who buy assignments. They don't do their assignments. It's like studying, having, or being enrolled in a college or campus. It's only a way for them to somehow stay here in Australia. Somehow they are not being able to see the whole picture. Again, this is a kind of a social issue we have here for most international students, because that's the kind of circle we have around. Like, I can't speak for other communities, but especially in our Nepalese communities, that's what I see. We come in here, and what we see around with our friends or even with our elders is that they are somehow so much discouraging, and they have not been able to do anything in their life, and they will tell you that even you can't do that. Somehow we are stuck whenever we come in. I still haven't understood. I did that too, but I still haven't understood why when we come here in Australia, the first job or first thing we try to get into is either restaurant, kitchen, or a cleaning job. Why can't we go out and try in some stores? Why can't we go out? One of the main reason I think for that is that we don't have a good English. That is a problem. Yes, if you're in Australia and if you don't have a proper English, that is the basic need you would need to work in any proper job. I think that is one of the main problems. But the whole mentality, the whole concept of why do we need to get to, in order to start, why need to get into like a kitchen hand restaurant business or a cleaning business? Like, I haven't understood that. It's also another reason that I've found even within myself is that because we don't have any other skill. From the very childhood, we have been growing up with our parents. They have been feeding us, they have been doing everything for us. We studied, we completed, we graduated, but we never worked. We don't have like a proper skill that could help us get a job in a place like Australia. So yeah, that is a social issue we have. I think that I don't know if you could actually consider it a social issue, but that is a problem because we have so much of potential out here. We have so much of opportunities out here if only you're willing to try, if you are only skilled enough. But somehow our circle, our mentality, the situation, the pressurized situation we get into, because it was much easier for me because I didn't have to worry much about sending money back home except for paying my tuition fees. So that helped me a lot. But I think a lot of people have that problem where they have that financial pressure, maybe because of which they can't do that. But that is something that I've seen in our like Nepalese community, where we are trapped inside a bubble and we can't get out and utilize the proper opportunities that we get here. What do you
Yeah.
think about it, Rohit
Uh,
or Niraj?
yeah, the whatever you said, because that's really true. I'm like, there are a couple of reasons. I don't know, and I think that's depend upon person to person. So,
Mm-hmm.
but I think one of the reason I think we are still we have that problem is like we there's something like inferior, like we don't believe in our capacity or we don't believe in ourselves. Like, okay, I can't do this.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever there's some jobs or some their vacancy, like, and you look out of the requirement, you look at the skills, and even though you have that skills and you feel like, oh, I can't do that. I'm like, I don't have that capacity, or I'm not that capable. When the people have that kind of mindset, I think that's the reason. That is one of the reason. I think most of the people's in the first they skip from that one. I mean, even let's try. Maybe they don't. Maybe I'll not get the job, but let's try. Even
Mm-hmm.
people are not trying. I mean, like, even that was the case in me. I'm like, before 1 year, while I was studying, there was a lot of opportunities, and while I was looking for opportunities, and I just go to the requirement, and I don't have skills, but I have somehow that kind of skills. But even just to send application, I feel like they will not they will not. I'm like, I will not be successful. Okay,
We
I'm
aren't
not good
confident
enough.
enough.
I'm not good enough. I'm like, so I don't send that. Even I don't try to send that applications. That means even I don't try just to apply. So I think that is one of the reason. Like, we don't believe in our capacity. We don't believe in our ability. And when we don't believe in our ability, then we stop circle around friend. Okay, this is what we belong to. And we just stuck here. And I think that is one of the reason. And another is I think that we don't. And another is I think like in the last podcast, we don't want to change. We are comfort in our comfort zone. I'm like, why so change when there is, if just like We don't know about
We're
what's going to
comfortable
happen.
with what we are
Yeah,
getting.
we are comfortable with what we are getting. If we want to change, if we want to do something new, then we don't know the result. So whatever
Uncertainty.
whatever I'm getting here, I'm comfortable with that. If I try something, what's going to happen? I don't know. So instead of doing this one, I think we are comfortable whatever we are doing, and I think that's the reason most of our community are even stuck in that things, I think.
What do you think about this, Rohit? What's it's like from your experience in Melbourne?
I think even the circle, something that I was around when I came, it was pretty similar. It was very discouraging, and I was even told that I there was no chance that I could get into a tech job after I graduate. Um, and yeah, and also which was surprising for this job, that's which I thought was a really good opportunity. Later, when I asked the manager how many people had applied, I was really shocked because in a university of so many students, only like top 5 people would have applied
Okay.
uh, to the role. And I was really shocked. Like, so maybe it's a matter of confidence, and also I really felt that like everyone was discouraging with everything. Like, it's uh, uh, like don't waste your time on getting the skills or something. Like start with go into a restaurant job. There's nothing wrong with it. I was doing it for a very long time, even after I had this job. But then, at the same time, I met a few people, other students who were at the university doing like even like lower hour jobs and who were volunteering in the university, and they had like a totally refreshing outlook. They were just saying that like you just start applying for jobs here, learn these and these skills, you need this, start networking. And thankfully I met that group, and they really like you, including the other chain champs like you. And even when I met you, Niraj, it was so much more positive rather than like, it's like one way that I judge is like obviously PR is important, but if I go to a person and the first thing is like if they start asking me about like, okay, PR, you're not gonna get PR, or how hard it is, I was like,
Exactly.
okay, I'm not anything. But instead, like, when people ask like questions, or the conversation is something about my course or my life or my hobbies or something, just anything except that, it's like it's very refreshing.
Yeah, exactly,
I
man.
think you guys must be familiar, right? Like when you meet some people, like the first thing about is related to PR.
PR, PR. That's what they
Like
talk
I
about.
understand it's very important. I'm not saying it's not important or
It is.
anything, but that's not the only thing,
Exactly.
it's yeah.
It is important, but it's not the only thing you should be worried about. That's the thing.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I haven't like exactly figured out what is wrong. It's also about the confidence. Like when you come into a completely new country and there is like a new system, new country. I was even like not even confident enough to cross the roads properly when I came in here for the first time. So there's always
Yeah.
part of that having confidence. I also remember like I used to work as a kitchen hand in a place, and somehow I was able to ask them and manage to work front of the house. But during that time, I wasn't confident enough to like take an order from like a
Mhm.
customer. It's nothing. Whatever they say, I just had to write it down. But somehow I wasn't confident enough to go and talk to them during that time. So I think that's one of the main reasons, like having lack of confidence. But it's also like I think that's the thing we need to realize, or something we could always say to the new people who are coming out here, is that be careful of the kind of circle you're hanging around. You
Yeah,
know,
it's very important.
it's
Like,
very important, I guess, because as I said, if only I hadn't got like the job for the job inside the university, and I hadn't met all the people within the university who are active or who are doing things, like I would be like in a similar condition like most of the students are. Maybe I would have got out because as far as I know myself, but I wouldn't have been like at a level that I'm in right now, because that job helped me explore my vision, explore my perspective and everything. And I made people who would encourage me to do things. And I was encouraged myself by being in that thing. I enjoyed the job being a social innovation change champion ambassador, because I had that feeling that I was helping to make a change. I was somehow motivating or inspiring students out there, whoever in the uni. So that somehow made me feel really good about that job, man. It was a nice, completely broader perspective, but that's where I got the broader vision of everything. And I just wish, man, it could be possible for every international student who's coming here who could like see the opportunities. It also depends on the person. Some people are just like lazy. They just don't want to
Yeah.
do anything, don't want to get out of their comfort zone, as Nira said, and
I
just
think
be comfortable with what they have.
Yeah, I mean, I also would like to hear about Neeraj's experience because we both were chain champs and we got a
Mm,
lot of inspiration from that. But
mm,
someone, I mean, I know you were like part of the social innovation thing,
mm.
but not as part of the chain champ. Like, where did you get your inspiration from? And like, see, you're doing a lot of awesome things, like starting this podcast where you can help international students, and you had a lot of projects going on. So how was it for you? Like, it's like, where was the change, and or was it like this from the beginning for you
Uh,
as a student?
no, I'm like my first. I came here in University of Wollongong. So my first semester was in University of Wollongong, and then as you know, we have the university fees was very high, and it's very and it's very hard to pay that fee. So I shift from University of Wollongong to CQUniversity, and after changing and during that process, I'm like after changing, everything was all right, and I don't know. One day I self reflect, like my first semester went. I'm like I didn't do nothing, just like Bikesh said, went to university, direct to work and home, university, home, work, and I self reflect. Oh my God, my first semester is gone like this, and do I really want to spend my rest of the I'm like rest of my university like this? And when I self reflect like that, and what I feel like, no, I don't want to do that. Like I'm like, I did my bachelor all same, just go to schools, come home, read something, and just go to schools, get a good marks. And I feel like, oh, I shouldn't do that in Australia. I should do something different. I should come out from my comfort zone. I should try something different. So that really kicked me from inside. So I was looking for something like, so let's explore what's inside in universities. And when I saw social innovation, that was completely new. Like you guys, I had no idea on that social innovations. And on the university website, I saw iChange, and then I went to iChange program. I did that course, and from where that I knew about social innovations. But I even want to apply for the social chamber. And then, but due to my circumstances, like Bikesh said, like there have some financial problems that in back my home, and I was doing my work. So if I left that work and if I do social champ, then probably I will not be able to pay that kind of financial back home. So I had that kind of feeling, and so I didn't apply for social champ, and so that was one kind of barrier that didn't allow me to apply for social champ, and so I stick to that job. So I didn't apply. But even though I can do it different way, so let's do it a different way. I thought like that, so I involved in different social innovation activities. And that's the reason I got involved into social innovations. But nowadays, what I feel is like, even, as you said, because like the circle is one of the most important things. But the other thing is like, you have to know, you have to know your priorities. I'm like, what you want in your life, or what you want in your life. And when you know your priorities, like your first priority is this, your second priority is this, and your third priority is this, then you work according to that. If you don't have priorities, or if you don't have any goals, then you just spend your time. You just spend whatever you have, the opportunities. I feel like that. So my priorities were. So I learned this one from. I listen lots of podcasts like Joe Rogan podcast and other Jay Shetty podcasts. And when I listen the top peoples, the top CEO, I'm like the billionaires. They always talk one thing, like they have the priority list. I'm like, their first priority is this, second is this, and third is this. So they work according to their priorities. And that's what I'm trying to follow now. So I have written first priority. In life, my first priority is this one. So my first priority is always health now. So I always take care of my health, physical, mental. I'm trying to do that physically, mentally. And the second priority is financial freedom. So regarding to that, I'm trying to start some startup. So I'm constantly working on that. I'm working on ideas. I'm working on building teams. And my third priority is my family. So these are the three my priorities. So beside that, I don't want to spend any time other than this field. So I'm not on perfect on that, but what I have found is like I have found my priorities. These are the three priorities for me, and I will work for this one. So nowadays I'm planning my routine according to that, and that's the reasons I'm meeting a new person. That's the reason also doing podcasts. Like I want to meet new people. I want to learn from them, and I also want to share their knowledge, their wisdom to all of the people who are listening or who are watching this one. And I just don't want to grow myself, but I also want other to learn from that and apply in their life. And that's the reasons I'm doing all of these things.
No, man, it was great to have you in the university. Like you were the reason why we had like at least number of students in our whatever events were happening. Because when I came in as a social innovation ambassador for the university, I actually had zero like student. There was one event for a screening of a movie. I literally had zero students in that event. That's like we have around 3,000 students in the campus, and like no one is interested to go to the events or to explore what is happening, how is it happening. All that I care about is money, like they need job, they need money, and that's all they care about. That's real sad. I think it was great to have you in the university, in the campus, and that is one of the reasons why I so much recommended your name while we were going to the US.
Oh, thanks for that.
Yeah, and I think
Because you were the guy who were in like most of, like in every event that I had, you were the first guy to go to, because I knew that you would come there and you're interested in this kind of things. Yeah. It was very hard to actually find the students.
Yeah, one of the reasons
I'm very happy.
Yeah, one of the reasons I want to be in that part is like I want to learn from every event, whatever you guys are doing in the social innovations. So that's the reason I came here. Like even if I learn something new from there that I can apply in my life. So and going in that, I think that's the reason I came here. So I always check whenever your schedule is, and I'm like on that day I'll take my day off. So I used to manage my roster according to that. So I always check whatever the social information in which day is going to happen. So according to that, I give my roster, and I'll manage my roster according to that. So that's the reason how I manage my time during university.
Yeah, I think that was a great thing about you that inspired me, the way you manage time.
Yeah, it's like it's something that like I would like all the students to also hear that, because that's something that I heard a lot, that I don't have time because I have to like pay the fees and do two jobs. But like people, you also did that at the same time. You were doing your own assignments and you were attending all these events, so it's like definitely possible if you like prioritize it.
Yeah.
And I know many students who do that, like where they do like 2 to 3 jobs but still make the time to like at least like do their studies like properly, not sending off any assignments or learning. And from my experience, a lot of people who actually did it the right way are doing pretty well even after graduating. They have grown as a person and also professionally and personally, who actually went out of the comfort zone to do all these things.
Yeah, I think it's also a choice you make. Plus, I think some people have their personality where they just want to do things where they just like if they are not satisfied with the situation they are in, they are ready to make the change, bear the consequences and just move forward. I think those are the kinds of people who make it. I mean, everyone can do that, but as I said, it's the same thing with what happens with any social issue. It's not like as simple as like you're just not doing things, just go and do and things will happen, because they have their family, they have their personality, they have their friends. There are lots of things that goes on in life that's like intertwined within each other, and that creates the whole problem as a whole. Like even the problem that I'm telling you, like everything we discuss now, how we coming as an international students cannot see the opportunities around there, that is an issue. But it's not as simple as just go out there and do things and you'd be able to do that, because there are lots of barriers to that. There are lots of things that we need to look into and take care of, and that's somehow blocking us from not being able to see those opportunities and everything. But yeah, I think that's what the social issues is all about. It's not as simple as it seems or sounds.
And I also think like we have this kind of mindset, like we want to get
Mhm.
outcome. I'm like in a 2 or 3 days. I'm like right now.
Exactly. We don't have patience.
Yeah, we don't have patience. Like okay, this event. Okay, I attend this event. I want the result now. After attending the event, I want to see changes now, right now. So that doesn't happen.
Right now.
That's not the reality. I mean, like even doing exercise for one day, that doesn't make any changes. You have to do for years to get to that changes. I think we should have that kind of mindset, like that kind of patience and
Patience.
yeah.
That's one of the things that we need to learn. Like we learned a lot just by being in this country, coming back from like our country, the way we lived. As I said, like we were under the control of our parents. We were just dependent upon them, and we come here and we are finally independent. And somehow we don't know how to handle everything. You know, like how to manage life, how to manage finances. Like we have never been taught either by our parents properly or in any of our institutions how to manage finance, like how to manage your budget. You know, like we haven't been taught those kind of things. We haven't been taught in life like how to manage life, how to prioritize things. I don't think anyone teaches us that. We have to learn that by ourselves. So I think that's one of the reasons what doesn't let us do things, because but
I
again, that's, I
totally
think that's the
agree with
life.
that.
Pardon me.
No, I said like I totally agree with that. Like none of the things which we need are taught, but at the
Yeah.
same time, I joke around that like try explaining to a kid in ninth grade that 25% of your pay will go to taxes. I don't want to depress them at that age. Looks like, see, just like everything is awesome, nothing. And then like once you reach like 22, 23, you start working. Yeah, you have to do the taxes, you have to
Yeah,
fix things, you have to file tax returns, you have to pay for insurance.
I
Yeah,
didn't know
but
about those
that's
things like taxes, insurance. I didn't know about those things like back in Nepal. Like you have to, if you earn money, you have to pay. I mean, I knew that you had like a VAT tax or certain amount of tax you have to pay, but we come from a country where like doing things illegally is like very easy. You know, like you don't have
yeah.
to pay taxes, you don't even have to buy softwares. You know, we come from a place like that, so we never knew what taxes mean or how you have to pay taxes and file taxes, and it's completely different system here.
Yeah, even like with driving back
Mhm.
home, I didn't even know there was a speed limit. And then suddenly every road has a speed limit. Like there's a 40, 60, 80, and you have to like watch for that. So
Man, I don't think I mean, I can drive. I have a red P license right now, and I can drive here in Australia. But I don't think by any chance I would be able to drive back home.
And you know, like because I want to touch one of like
Mhm.
and one of the regret I have now, you know, when I came to Australia and when I saw like teenage guys like who are in
Mhm.
13, 14, 19, they are working here, they are going to schools, and on their
Mhm.
holiday they are working. And when I see that, I really regret. And one thing I regret is like I I I don't know. I don't call it a waste, but let's call it a waste. I waste my like school life, college life just for reading, and I, I I I could have done something better on that. I feel like that
Yep.
when I see here like like children here in Sydney, they go to schools and
Mhm.
they have some part-time jobs, and even they do something different. And in my life, I just went to schools, I just went to college, I just went to bachelor degree, engineering degree,
Mhm.
just read and nothing. And when I reflect that, oh, did I really waste that much time? I'm like, I didn't do nothing different other than reading, other than
Mhm.
studying. And that is one of the regret I have now. Like, so whatever, and
Mhm.
so now for my brothers, my sisters, I used to say, okay, you have to read, you have to study, but beside that, there's something you can do different.
Else you
Yeah,
do.
there is something you can
Yeah,
do
of
different.
course, man.
So it's not about just studying, it's not about just getting a good mark, because in
I think that's not only like dependent upon you and like something that was under your control, because that, as I said, we were completely dependent upon our parents, and we were just doing exactly what they asked us to do. Like even I remember in my case, like from even after finishing SLC, I always wanted to get a job and, you know, like have my own source of income, but somehow my parents were always like, you don't have to worry about that, I'll take care of that, don't worry about the money, just study. That's how we were
Yeah,
raised up.
people will say child labor if we work in school.
Yeah.
In my country.
But that's a great
They'll
point
blame
to
our
have.
parents.
Yeah, that's a great
Yeah.
thing I see out here in Australia. Like, that's how you learn, when you go out there and do the jobs and into the real world. That's how the real world is. So if you're starting from like a
Yeah.
teenage, you're preparing yourself much better.
Yeah,
I
and
think that is
also
something
there
that
is
needs to
no
change.
rush.
Pardon me?
Like there is no rush, as in
Mm,
like you finish school.
mm,
Like I have noticed that people take a lot of time here to decide on what to learn,
mm-hmm.
and um, even in university they don't rush all their courses finishing.
Yeah.
Like it's actual learning. Like people want to produce something from what they learn. But also I want to touch on the fact that like I think it's important to work when you're young, because a lot of the jobs that I did here was like you said, kitchen hand at the
Mm-hmm.
restaurant. And trust me that those jobs taught me a lot about like people, how work
Management.
is and how everything works, like how to
Yeah.
plan things. I think that's one of the best things that I did, like those kind of jobs which I did.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot to learn in there too.
Of course, there's everything. Every job has something to learn from that. And again, when I say that, why do we come in here and just do the cleaning and restaurant jobs? I don't mean it's a bad job or anything. What I mean from that is like we have better potential than that. There are better opportunities
Yeah,
than
like
that. But
like
why are we
it's
just
good
stuck
for
with those jobs?
yeah, it's good for part time. So for example, like if you're learning like civil or IT or
Mm-hmm.
something else, or you have another passion, that should be it, right? Like it should be
Yeah,
working
go for
towards
that.
that.
Go for that. We just
Yeah.
get stuck with the jobs and we just forget about whatever our passion is or what we skills do we have and everything. That's what I have a problem with, I guess, instead of not the job itself, but people not willing to go out and do things they would like to do or utilize their skills properly, look at the opportunities, utilize the potential opportunities we have here.
Yeah, I agree.
Alrighty then. Anybody has any other questions for today?
I have a question for
Anybody
you
want to
guys. I'm like, as a change
Mhm.
champion, what were the most challenging part? I'm like, what were the most challenging thing for you guys as a change champion in university?
I guess for me it was first was understanding what social innovation is, because I was going out there and preaching to students what social innovation is, and I didn't have any idea myself what social innovation is. So that was one of the biggest challenges for me at first. The other things was getting students to come to my events. As I said, I'm kind of proud of myself because I had somehow been able to find out people like you, Niraj, Abasna, um, I forgot the name. Sorry, I forgot the names. But there were a group of like 5, 6, 7, 8 people who I have made or figured out who were interested in some kind of social work, who were interested in learning new things or meeting new people. Somehow I was able to gather those people around, and I was able to do it at somehow around the last days or last months of while I was working there. But that was one of the two biggest challenges. First, understanding what social innovation itself is. I actually went into an undergraduate class and I just went in and just talked to the teacher, and I used to go there like every week and just sit in the class. I wasn't being assessed. I wasn't given any exams or anything. I just used to go in the class and sit so that I could understand what that actually meant. And I learned a lot about social innovation from there, those classes. So yeah, basically those two things, somehow finding students, somehow making them understand the value they are getting out of those events we were doing, and understanding it as a whole. I think those were two of the most challenging situations for me during that role.
Yeah, for I think for me it's the same thing, especially getting students
Mm.
to the events, because I think you would have experienced so many times, Bikesh, like where you set a plan for weeks, but then it's just you. And
I had that.
yes, there are a lot of events, and I understand that as an international student, time is like very important, as in you have a lot
Mm-hmm.
of things to do. So it is also hard to explain to the students that like what they're going to get out of it.
Mm-hmm.
It may not be as tangible and measurable as we think it
Mm-hmm.
is. So it's also like explaining like what this is about, and and you don't get to like speak to a student for like half an hour and have a discussion. You have to like do it very quickly. Like, you put up a stall, and then when they are passing by, hey, do you want to attend this event? What is this event about? Like, what am I going to get with it? Okay, this is social innovation. So we kind of help people, but there's a lot more to it. So, that thing. So it's those two things are for me also the same. It was the hardest thing, like understanding it myself and getting like letting like then trying to teach people also what it is about.
Alrighty, so I think it's almost like 1.5 hours we have started.
Oh yeah, and one more question, like so when you don't have any student on that event, what was the first thought or whatever the first feeling you came in your mind? I'm like, how you feel on that?
You feel miserable. I don't know, miserable is the exact word for that, but you feel like shit, man. I did all this work and I've been trying to do this great thing, and man, nobody is interested in it. It used to feel bad, man. But somehow we had a great team. We always used to have these kind of talks in our meetings, like how we felt about how shit it was and everything. So that was kind of therapeutic, I guess. That's how I would say it. But you felt like shit, man, when like there was no one who organized the program and everything, and they did 0 people, and I was like, fuck, what am I gonna say to Ashley, man? I didn't have anyone, so yeah, it wasn't any good, man. It wasn't any good.
Yeah, I think for me the first 6 months of the job, yeah, it was really like you feel really low because it's something that you really worked, and it was, and especially that moment when you sit there and no one else is there. And also another situation I felt was that sometimes like you publish it as like a huge event, and then when you're there, like 2 students come through and they'll be like so confused, like, okay, I was expecting more students, and then you're trying to explain to the students, hey, stick around, this is very interesting. So that's also like a little bit embarrassing that like you put it out as a huge thing, but then it doesn't end up. So you put
like
yourself out there. Like, it's not like I cannot go anywhere and hide, like, it's like I put my face, name and everything, like when I publish it. So there's a lot of name attached to the event also. But then the second 6 months, I got so used to it that like I learned how to deal with it. And I was just like, I'll just laugh. Like, I tried my best. You just laugh. And one thing that helped was like there were 5 other chain champs. So if I just like talk to you guys, and sometimes Bikesh, Bikesh had like 1 student, Mignon had 3 students, I had 1 student. So like the team was also there, and Ashley was also very supportive in that. Like if she knows that we worked really hard for it, she understands how difficult it is also. So it's because of the supportive environment, it made it so much more easier.
Yeah, I can't imagine. I mean, like if I was there and nobody was on that event, it's really hard to imagine. But I mean, like, how do you guys prepare for the next event? Like with that, I'm like, I think that always comes in your mind. Okay, in the last event, this happened. What about the next event? So how do you guys prepare for the next event?
It's like, I don't know. Maybe as a person, I'm always like this. Like I always like try to think, okay, maybe if I do this idea, they might come. It's like I don't know. Maybe it's the same for other chain jams also. We never thought, like we analyzed why people didn't come, but we just forget it in like one day. And it was our job, so we have to do it too. So
yeah. It was a great thing that it was a job and we were getting paid for that. I think that was one of the main reasons why we kept on doing that, because it's a work, we have to do it. If only it wasn't like a paid thing and we were only doing the voluntary basis, I don't think we would have like continued it, doing it again and again, watching like there was no one there. But yeah, it's a new thing out there, even in the university. Like our campus is the only, like our university is the only university that has been recognized by Osaka U as like a changemaker campus. So there aren't much happening regarding that here. I mean, there are lots of other things happening, but through the university, within the university, there hasn't been much that is happening and it's a new thing here. It's a social innovation in itself, like teaching social innovation to all the students out there in the university, and not only the ones who only want to study about it, somehow integrating it into education system itself. I think it's a social innovation in itself that's happening here in our university. As I said, innovation doesn't have to be like a completely new thing. Already what is happening, making it better. So having that social innovation course itself, plus trying to do this events and everything, and trying to help people realize the thing that is already within them, where I think most people like to help others, man, whenever they can or however they can. That's what I believe in, and that's why we got into it, and that's what we're trying to do, I guess. But yes, it
Yeah,
failed. We had a
can
great
be
team.
something simple also. Like
Mm-hmm.
it can be something simple also. You don't have to like move mountains to make
Yeah.
good things. Sometimes the solution's right there in front of you.
Like Rohit said, that you guys just look forward. I think that's what important in our life. Like we have to look forward.
Mm-hmm.
There are lots of failures. There are so many paths that we don't want here, but just learning from them and just looking forward. I think that's what we want in our life, and I think
That's a great thing
yeah.
we learned from that. Like that is a great life lesson we learned from those events and everything, I guess. Like we're going to try a lot of things in life and we're going to fail, but that shouldn't stop us from trying the next thing.
Yeah.
That's a great thing to learn. That's a great attitude to have from that job, actually.
Yeah, I think even in social innovation, I'm pretty sure if someone like you're not going to get it right the first day, you'll make a lot of mistakes. But
Of
the
course not.
important thing is like you keep doing it like
Mm.
consistently, and soon you'll be a social innovator. Yeah.
Alrighty then. Thank you very much, Rohit, for your time.
Yeah.
I think it's
Thanks,
been
Thank you
more
so
thanks.
than
much, Rohit.
1.5 hours. So it was great to have you here. It was great to catch up again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, I really like. I'm like this conversation. I'm like it's I really learned from Rohit and from Bikesh, and that's the thing. I love doing podcasts. Like I can get different kind of perspective. I can get different kind of insight from different experiences, and I think that's also one of the best way and faster way of learning. Instead of experiencing things, like
I agree.
if we
I
have to learn that, if we want to experience, then it's not possible. You go and experience in everything. But if we learn from those who already have that experience, I think that's a better way and faster way of learning things.
Exactly, man. Exactly. That's why I want to do these kind of podcasts, because the reason is because I'm lazy and I don't want to read things, but would love to hear it from someone else. And that is somehow also like it sets into the memory somehow. I can't say for everyone, but so I somehow tend to remember things or understand things better when someone else is explaining to me than me going and reading things myself. So podcast is a great way to learn things, man.
And thank you guys. Thank you so much for sharing your experiences, and thanks.
It was great to have you, Rohit. Again, thank you very much for coming here, Rohit.
Thanks for
It was
having me. It
nice
was
to
nice to
talk to
catch up with
you.
you guys. Yeah.
Thank you,
All
Rohit.
right then.
Bye.
See you, everyone.
Yeah,
Bye.
bye.